Spots are getting pretty close to being full. So we're pretty confident that we're going to be at max capacity. So make sure that you're planning ahead, that you go in, you log in and register for this incredible event. Today, we're going to continue our product discussion with some exciting information about a product that we are excited to get our hands on and to ask some of our most burning questions. And we get to hear this from none other than our founder and chairman, David Schmidt. David, are you here?
Hey, Wayne, great to see you.
Great to see you as well. I always look forward to this every month, and I learn so much from each one of these. It helps me from the marketing side to know more and more about the incredible benefits of our products and how we can share them with others. And very excited to dig into Cellergize Morning with you today. So thank you again from all of us for making time for this.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And I hope that all of our brand partners are having a wonderful summer and they're going to take some well-deserved time off. And of course, we're initially launching Cellergize in the United States. We are going to be launching Cellergize around the world. And so even if you're not going to be using Cellergize in the near future, the information we're going to talk about today is really important because it helps people to optimize the benefits of the patches, as well as talking about how can we improve mitochondrial function and have natural energy. There are going to be people that want to know, how can I have the best skin quality? What can I do to protect the integrity of the collagen and elastin in the skin? How can we get the skin to look younger? And this is important not only from a cosmetic perspective, but we know that collagen is the most abundant protein in the body, and it's directly linked to our biological age. So, in other words, somebody could
Ich
be
glaube, mit
60
anderen Worten,
years old, but if they are able to maintain their collagen production, they can maintain the water in the cell. And as a result, they can stay younger longer and certainly stay younger looking longer. So this is going to be, if people aren't using Cellergize, this information is still incredibly valuable. So I would encourage our brand partners to stay on and listen. And I think we're going to have some very exciting information for them.
Yeah, I am. I know we are also excited to learn more. We've heard a little bit, over the last couple months, but excited to dig in more on the incredible benefits, the formula, the ingredients. And before we dig in on those, I'd love just to kind of set the table with a couple of questions for you that I'm curious about. So you are constantly innovating and developing and formulating different technologies and products. So I'm curious on this product specifically, what was the inspiration or the catalyst to bring this product to market over some of the others that you're currently working on?
Yeah, so the main driving force behind this one was that over the years, we have recommended that people take different nutrients to compensate for poor diet or perhaps if they're vegan or vegetarian. So, for example, there are a number of enormous benefits to supplementing with creatine and beta alanine. So, creatine is often thought of as being a supplement for athletes, improving muscle performance, improving strength and stamina. But new research is actually showing that creatine plays an incredibly important role in cognition. And actually, taking enough creatine daily can help to offset or even reverse age-related cognitive decline. And creatine is primarily found in meat. So if someone is a vegan or vegetarian, they're not going to be getting enough creatine. So we'd recommend they take that as a supplement. However, because creatine is involved in energy metabolism, it does complement products like X39 and the energy patches. So over the years, I've recommended that people take creatine for those health benefits and to complement the patches. So I wanted to put together one single formula so people could take it and they would get all the nutrients that they need to get the most benefits out of the patches. And as it turns out, this formula, the Cellergize Morning, has a number of other significant benefits, such as enhancing and promoting stem cell activity in the body. But we'll dig into that a little bit more. But that was the main driving force, is that when our brand partners want to get the most benefits out of the patches, they can take Cellergize Morning and they get all the nutrients they need.
That is one of the things that is so inspiring for me, in watching and learning how you innovate and develop these products, and how there's this incredible through line of the technology, how they work so synergistically together to support, enhance, and amplify the benefits of each other. As this starts to roll out in the US and then around the globe, how do you look at the patch portfolio, and how this might best align with specific patches, any all patches, as this is obviously a morning, meant to be taken in the morning? How do you look at the portfolio of what this best pairs with?
Well, Cellergize Morning is going to pair with all of the patch products. That's the intention. But most people are going to be starting with X39. And we know that X39 is a, glycine, histidine, lysine, copper binding peptide. So some of the critical nutrients that people would want to have in their diet. And actually, I want to make a distinction, because when we're talking about nutrition, there's often studies that look at the structure of people's jaws and teeth. And then you can say, well, human beings are omnivores, and so we can eat anything. But there's a distinction between survival and longevity. So maybe human beings are omnivores and we can eat anything, but this is all based on how we were created for survival. However, that doesn't mean we should eat everything to be healthy and have the best longevity. So when it comes to nutrition, in the United States, it's recommended that people take 60 milligrams of vitamin C per day. And the reason for that recommended daily allowance, is to prevent the illness scurvy. And that does not mean, though, that 60 milligrams per day is enough for optimum health. If, for example, people have allergies, they may find that adding 1,000 milligrams, 2,000 milligrams of vitamin C to their daily diet, along with 1,000 or 2,000 milligrams of vitamin B5 to their diet, will get rid of their allergies. That's how actually I eliminated my allergies many years ago. And this is what got me so interested in nutrition, that I could take two vitamins, take them in the right dose, vitamin C and vitamin B5, and I could eliminate my allergies. But we're not going to find high doses of pantothenic acid, vitamin B5, naturally in foods. So there's a distinction between getting enough nutrition for maintenance, and then what can we do to get longevity effects? How can we stay younger longer? So I want to make that distinction. So from the perspective of a patch like X39, we want to get additional glycine, lysine, and copper to make sure that we have enough to support the formation of GHKCU, and also get an amount that can help support these longevity effects.
Incredible. You've mentioned some really key ingredients, creatine and others. And with that, I would love to dig in more on the formula itself and some of the key ingredients. I know that as you approach formulation, you're selecting each ingredient for its very specific properties and benefits. Do you mind going through some of the ones you've mentioned, creatine, but others that really stand out, the role they play in the formula and the benefits they provide?
Sure. And of course, with this formula, we're looking to complement all of the patches. So we start with that as a umbrella statement. So when we think of a product like the carnosine patch, if people are not meat eaters, they may not be getting enough of the amino acid alanine. In this specific case, we want the beta alanine form, and beta alanine will convert to peptides like AHKCU, which is what X49 is designed to elevate, and of course, carnosine. So we wanted to include nutrients like beta alanine to support the function of the carnosine patch and acetylcysteine to support the function of the glutathione patch and so forth. However, each of these nutrients plays an incredible role with respect to overall health. So I'm actually going to share screen and go through a few of these things here. And I would say keep in mind that what we're looking at is how to optimize longevity. How can we stay younger longer? And what are some of the things that are known scientifically today that we can do about longevity and how to optimize? So the first thing is longevity is absolutely connected to our body's levels of glutathione. People living over the age of 100 have elevated levels of glutathione. Glutathione, as the body's master antioxidant, tends to decline with age. But if we supplement, if we have a healthy diet, we manage our stress, amongst other things, we can help to preserve our body's levels of glutathione. So our glutathione patch became very important in this regard. Also, it's important to know if you're using X39, which I believe all of you are, X39 helps to preserve the body's levels of glutathione. So, what are some of the reasons why glutathione is important? Well, it helps to regulate mitochondrial function. So, here's a way to look at this. You have a diet that has the macronutrients, proteins, fats, and carbohydrates. And as we metabolize our food to convert it over into energy, one of the byproducts of this are radical oxygen species and waste. And our body has to have glutathione to manage these free radicals that are coming off of our mitochondria as part of the natural process of making energy. So if we keep our body's levels of glutathione elevated, we can support overall energy production in the cell. And as a matter of fact, there is a positive and negative feedback loop in the cell. So if we have declining levels of glutathione, energy production turns off or slows down to accommodate these declining levels of glutathione. So we can actually get an improvement in energy production in the cell through elevation of glutathione, along with its other benefits of improving immune function, improving the health of the skin. We get cosmetic benefits. There's even, some of you may have loss of cartilage. So let's say that you were an athlete and or you were involved in an accident and you have loss of cartilage in your shoulder, in your knee. Glutathione is a trigger that initiates production of cartilage. We've even seen examples where vitamin C and glutathione are used to regenerate lost cartilage in the joints. This along with collagen protein. All right, let's go to something else here. Let's look at nitric oxide. Now, another ingredient that we have in Cellergize morning formula is L-citrulline. And citrulline is an amino acid, it's natural, and it converts over into nitric oxide. Nitric oxide is a gas, so it's made on demand in the body, and it acts as a vasodilator. And simply what this means is that it's going to improve blood flow. So let's say, for example, you've been a smoker and you've smoked for many, many years. You would want to elevate your body's levels of nitric oxide to improve the health and vitality of your cardiovascular system. Let's say you're a man in your 50s or 60s and you've had a decline in sexual function. By elevating nitric oxide, you improve circulation, you improve sexual function. But when it comes to longevity, there's actually a very interesting relationship between nitric oxide and mitochondrial function. It acts as a key regulator in mitochondrial function, but it also induces formation of new mitochondria. And that's important because mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. So we want to be making new mitochondria. When we exercise, especially resistance training, we will build more mitochondria in the muscle so we can generate more energy and improve strength and stamina. Okay, another very important ingredient that we put in Cellergize, and this was specifically so we could make claims about improving the health of the stem cells, is cyanothox. And cyanothox is an extract of sea buckthorn berry. And one of the interesting things about cyanothox is it's a very powerful antioxidant. It's a powerful anti-inflammatory. And we're just talking about allergies a moment ago, about the value of vitamin C and vitamin B5. Well, there's other studies showing that quercetin, which is one of the bioflavonoids that's in cyanothox, quercetin plays a role in as a natural relief for allergies. So some people using Cellergize may experience relief of allergies. That's something to keep aware of. Another thing that's really interesting about cyanothox is its auric value. It's about 8 times stronger than grapeseed extract. So it has its very powerful properties as an antioxidant. And then one final note, there's been clinical trials that have shown that cyanothox can help to improve the health and the vitality of stem cells. One other thing that I wanted to bring to your attention, we won't have time to get into it in any kind of detail, but it has to do with the health of the skin. And one thing interesting about cyanothox is that it is capable of protecting collagen and protecting elastin. So you take this antioxidant and it helps to protect the collagen in the skin and throughout the body from breaking down. So that's a very powerful anti-aging effect, as well as improving the health of the skin. So I will pull up one of the things that is in cyanothox is proanthocyanins. And here's a study on the anti-aging effects of cyanothox or sea buckthorn on as an anti-glycation nutrient. In other words, if we get sugar into our diet, sugar can cause cross-linking of the skin and damage the skin. 2 antioxidants that are remarkable at protecting the skin from glycation are carnosine and cyanothox. And let's see, I think, Wayne, what I'll do is just stop there for a moment as we move on. I've got certainly plenty more information on some studies that I want to share.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned a lot of incredible information there, and one of our favorite things to learn about, which is stem cell support. Do you mind just going a little bit deeper on how this formula specifically helps support and keep us having healthy stem cells?
Yeah, actually, one of the things, what I actually started with was to create the formula so that it would support all of the patches. So we put in copper. Um, Copper would support the function of X39 and X49. We included N-acetylcysteine because that would support the body's levels of glutathione, and it indirectly supports X39. We included glycine. Glycine will support X39, but it also supports the glutathione patch and so forth. And then I went back and said, well, I want to look at each one of these ingredients and see if I can find any clinical research that shows that it supports health and vitality of stem cells. And one thing that I was actually very surprised to find is that for every single ingredient that we have in Cellergize, there are at least a single study, and most of the time more, studies that show that each of the ingredients in Cellergize improves the health and the vitality of the stem cells in the body. So I'll just share for a moment, and let's see, pull up this study on creatine. So, speaking a little bit earlier, creatine is often thought of as something for athletes for improving strength and stamina. And creatine monohydrate is often said to be the most well-studied nutrient when it comes to improving sports performance from a perspective of safety and effectiveness. But what hadn't previously been looked at is the benefits that creatine has on the health of the heart and also on cognition, the health of the brain. But interestingly, in this study, it's been shown that creatine can support the health and vitality of stem cells and actually lead to improving the strength of the bone, osteogenesis. So this is an incredibly surprising benefit of creatine, that it can act as a way to support the health and vitality of the bone, increasing bone density. And it's even being looked at as a therapy, having creatine as a therapy for improving bone density. So, for example, if you're a woman over the age of 50 and you've experienced some bone loss, you might want to consider supplementing with creatine. Let's go to another nutrient here that is people may find as a surprise relative to improving health and vitality of stem cells, and that's common potassium. Many people today, because of high salt diets, don't get enough potassium in their diet. There was some work done by Oxford a number of years ago, showing that potassium is a key regulator of alkalinity in the cell. So for people that are interested in alkaline water or having an alkaline diet, those things are fine, but potassium supplementation, let's say 500 milligrams to 1,000 milligrams per day, if your doctor says it's okay, because I'm not a doctor, can help balance out the pH. Very simple. Baking soda, of course, is another way to help balance out the pH and improve athletic activity. But here we see that one of potassium's surprising benefits is its ability to protect the pluripotency of stem cells. What that simply means is that stem cells divide and they differentiate and become specialized cells. And here potassium plays an important role in that process. Another nutrient that is often found to be, most people have a deficiency, maybe 60% of the population have a deficiency in magnesium. And if you're a person with high blood pressure, you're under a lot of stress, you should absolutely be taking magnesium each day. We don't make any medical claims here, but for the Cellergize evening formula, one of the driving goals of the design of that formula was to put people into a relaxed state, but also have a way that we could have healthy blood pressure and reduction in stress. But if we look at studies on magnesium, and let's say that you're someone with high blood pressure, you might be looking at 400 milligrams to as much as 800 milligrams per day of magnesium. Go work with a clinical nutritionist on this. But this is just to say that there are nutrients like nattokinase, theanine, magnesium that will naturally lower your blood pressure. Work with a medical doctor that's a nutritionist so that you can transition away from blood pressure meds and use natural supplements and improve the health of your heart naturally. And of course, we also want to encourage exercise as a means to improving cardiovascular health. But here, again, we have a surprise. Maybe it's a surprising finding or not. Maybe not. Magnesium is involved in well over 300 different biochemical pathways in the body. And here we see magnesium regulates mesenchymal stem cells. MSCs produce growth factors like VEGF. So that means magnesium and MSCs are important in the health and the vitality of the cardiovascular system, amongst other things. Okay, I think that's enough on that one.
No, that's great. You mentioned the evening formula as well, which will be coming out later this year. There were also some questions in the chat. So people that were able to get it at the Vision promotion as part of that and had the opportunity to use Cellergize Morning, they were talking about the level of energy, how energized they felt in using this product. Can you talk a little bit about kind of those energy components, its function for our bodies in the mornings, and then again, how that differentiates from the future upcoming evening formula?
Yeah, I would actually, for full disclosure, this was something that was relatively surprising in a really good, fun way. Is that when we got the first samples in of the Cellergize morning formula, we tested them with staff that is in our research building in Florida. And we were really looking to see. Um, how did people like the flavor, the texture, the scent? Did they notice anything from having it? So uh, we were really looking at Cellergize Morning as something that people would take over time to support the action of the patches. And we're not really thinking about what type of immediate effect that people would get. But as it turned out, within just a few minutes of taking Cellergize, keeping in mind there is no caffeine and there are no stimulants in this product, people were getting a boost of energy, a boost of mental clarity, and these feelings of increased energy lasted 3 to 5 hours after taking it. So, how does this happen? Well, we have citrulline and beta alanine, which support the production of nitric oxide in the body. So we're going to get an improvement in circulation almost immediately. In addition, potassium has been shown to help keep nitric oxide levels elevated in the body. So we get a sustained effect. Magnesium and potassium are critical for conduction of signals through the nerve system. So those elements are in Cellergize. In addition, we have a whole complex of antioxidants such as NAC and cyanthox and vitamin C to support energy metabolism. So all these things came together in just the right way to support natural energy. And that means that you're not going to crash once you stop taking Cellergize. It's just very constant, stable levels of energy that have longevity effects and improve the health of the skin, the health of the heart, the health of cognition, and so many other benefits. So people that were at our conference in October and they got to have samples of Cellergize absolutely loved it for all those reasons.
And one of the other things they loved about it, I'm watching the chat, so thank you everyone for posting the questions. One of the other things they loved was the taste and the flavoring, and I'm wondering if you can go into depth a little bit on how you approach the flavoring profile, the ingredients used. Can you share a little bit on the flavoring aspect?
Yeah, so fortunately, we were able to work with a great lab relative to the flavoring. And we wanted to be able to use natural flavoring. So the first thing where we started with the chemists was to say, okay, let's look at the profile of these nutrients. And we had a lot of amino acids. So when you have amino acids and then you want to turn that into a product that you drink, generally, a citrus flavor is going to be a little bit more preferable. So we knew we wanted it to have a little bit of a lemon flavor to it. And then during the development, it was thought, well, how about we make it taste like a lemon iced tea? And of course, once we got those samples, it was really great. The other side to it was on the sweetener. Now, we wanted the flavoring to be natural, we wanted the sweetener to be natural, and we didn't want to have any type of artificial ingredients. So, for example, some of the ingredients that you have to include would be things like silica, and silica prevents the powder from sticking together. Silica is a naturally occurring ingredient in the human body. It's found in the connective tissue and it's also found in skin. As a matter of fact, people take silica as a supplement to improve the health of the skin. So that's why that was included. On the sweetener, we went with stevia and we went with a stevia extract called ribidoside. And this means then that the stevia will not have a bitter aftertaste. With Cellergize, uh, because you have to sweeten the product, for some people it might be too sweet. For other people, it's going to be just perfect. Um, Especially, I think what I found is since my wife is European, and in Europe here, the desserts are much less sweet than, let's say, in the United States. Cellergize for the US, let's say, is perfect. In Europe, it's a little bit too sweet. But that's really easy because then you just use one scoop of Cellergize, let's say in the morning, and then another scoop of Cellergize in the afternoon, as opposed to having two scoops at the same time. But so it's very easy to adjust the sweetness level. But yeah, that's a little bit more information on that.
Yeah, thank you for that. And you mentioned dosage, which is something that's come up a few times here. Some of the questions are, is it better to take, especially the morning one, on an empty stomach? Is it once or twice a day? How do you look at dosage and empty stomach after breakfast? When is most effective?
Yeah, so I start my day at 6 a.m. and I'm generally in the gym at 6:30, and that's the schedule that I like. So I go into the gym, maybe I've had a little bit of water after I wake up, but then I like to get to the gym right away. Um, and then after I finish at the gym, that's when I'm taking my X2O and I'll add Cellergize into that. And I generally will add between 1 and 2 scoops of Cellergize. Sometimes I'm just putting in one so I can have another scoop a little bit later in the day. What I found is about 2, 3 o'clock, because I love the flavor of Cellergize, like a lot of people, I really look forward to having that in the afternoon. But this really comes down to personal preference.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Um, can you talk a little bit about there's some people asking questions. They might be taking an existing multivitamin. If they're taking this daily, multiple times a day, can this replace? Does it augment? How should someone approach, other multivitamins they might be taking?
So this formula is very different than a multivitamin, and it's not going to replace everything, but it certainly replaces a lot. So, for example, this does not have all of the B complex vitamins. So, if you're someone that doesn't have a healthy diet, you may want to supplement with a separate B vitamin formula. Also, looking at diets, one of the common nutrients that doctors will recommend are omega-3 fatty acids. So, an omega-3 supplement. That's going to be something that is not found in Cellergize. So, you could get a fish oil supplement, cod liver oil supplement, these type of things. And again, to supplement your diet with. But other than that, Cellergize does cover a lot of ground.
Thank you. This is a product that we mix in water, and we soon have, not to feature too much, but more exciting technology coming out. Can you talk in the meantime? Is it okay with, maybe filtered water out of the fridge versus bottled water? Are there certain types of water that this is going to work best in and that you recommend starting with?
Yeah, I would say, we haven't tested it with alkaline water. So that other than that, using um, people have different opinion on distilled water. You don't really have to go to that extreme, but I would recommend that people have a basic level of filtration and certainly don't use tap water. There would be certain countries like Japan, Denmark, where the municipalities will say, well, our water quality is very good and there's not an issue. But then later on, what's found out is that the forever chemicals, PFOS, PFOAs, are later found in these municipal water supplies when the water is supposed to be completely clean. So I would definitely recommend that people have at least a basic, uh, at least one filter on their home so they can get the chlorine out of their drinking water, out of the water that they shower with, and use that. There's also microplastics that are in the water supply that we should be thinking about. So again, I'm a little bit extreme with filtering water. Probably I have a whole system on my house, and then I also have another system on the countertop. And then, of course, that water goes into X2O. Um, but I want to make sure that I'm taking out all of the forever chemicals, heavy metals, microplastics, and so it's really worth it to make sure that you're filtering your water and the water you're putting in your body is clean.
I agree. It's completely worth it. And I've learned so much more from you and my time at LifeWave of the importance of that. And I can't wait for some of these upcoming launches. You talked a little bit about the timing that someone can expect to see and feel some of the benefits. Can you talk a little bit about that? And also, there's some questions around bioavailability.
Yeah, so when we've done our studies, let's see, when we've done our studies on X2O, we have people drink, and I realize I'm talking about X2O, not Cellergize, but just to illustrate the point. Um, I would say there's a little bit of a difference to how we want to do something in a clinical environment versus in real life. So we'll make that distinction. So in a clinical environment, when we're doing studies, we try to limit the number of variables, meaning we want people to have the product on an empty stomach so we can see what the results of that product is without having interference from someone just having breakfast or something like that. So, in a laboratory setting, we want people to take our product on an empty stomach. Now, that said, you don't have to use Cellergize or X2O on an empty stomach, but based on the studies, you'll experience the benefits more rapidly. So I think that's probably a good way to say it. Um, we also did learn in a pilot study, I think I might say it this way. We did learn in a pilot study there were some unexpected benefits of Cellergize. Um, and we may be coming out with that information at conference. I don't know if we're going to be able to have time to do a larger study with it, but there was, I'd say, in a very good way, there were some unexpected benefits to Cellergize.
Yeah, it is always interesting being able to hear of these ongoing studies, these ongoing findings, and I'm always just amazed, and I love the updates that you provide, David. So as you look at the formula of the product, the benefits are incredible. The ingredient profile is amazing. How do you feel that it really stands out and stands apart from other products on the market?
There's certainly good products that are on the market, but often finding good products can be difficult. And you have to look at the ingredients, you have to scrutinize. Not every company is going to be so discerning. What's really unfortunate is if you, here in the US, if you go into Sprouts, Vitamin Shop, GNC, on products that are designed to improve energy, they're all using caffeine or they're using guarana or some kind of stimulant. And on the positive side, you could say caffeine absolutely improves athletic performance. This is why the Olympic Committee has more or less banned caffeine because it does give people an advantage for sports performance. However, we have to look at the negative consequences of drinking caffeine regularly. And certainly the studies on this are conflicting because some of the studies are going to show that caffeine has great benefits, such as improving the health of the cardiovascular system, whereas other people that are caffeine sensitive, it will make their blood pressure high. So you kind of have to know your body, but in the long term, caffeine will increase stress on the mitochondria. And if you don't have adequate antioxidants in your diet, in supplements, caffeine absolutely is detrimental long term to longevity. So, this is a big problem with products in the marketplace for improving energy. They're resorting to using caffeine. And we've taken a much more strategic approach and said, okay, how can we improve energy? Um, Supporting the function of the patches, and then the outcome is um, more longevity, staying younger longer. That's going to be the goal. So the great outcome with Cellergize and the patches is that you get to have that boost in energy, but you don't have the downside to where other companies are using caffeine or stimulants to get that quick jolt. I'd say another serious problem with other products that are on the market is they have artificial flavors, artificial coloring or dyes, and especially they'll use artificial sweeteners. So one of the worst ones, well, they're all pretty bad. I mean, you have aspartame, acesulfame K. Um, you'll have sucralose, and sucralose is one of the uh, it should be banned. Um, Sucralose is sugar, but it has chlorine gas that is attached to it. And it's been shown in studies to create a terrible inflammatory response in the body. Um, so with a synthetic sweetener like sucralose, say, okay, you're not getting the calories from sugar. So maybe uh, you're helping someone avoid diabetes, but on the other hand, you're creating a horrible inflammatory stress in the body that could lead to other problems. So definitely it's more preferable to go the way of having a natural sweetener. So I think these are where other products that are on the market, have some issues and that consumers should be aware of these things.
Yeah, it is incredibly potent, powerful product that really stands out in a competitive space. So I'm going to ask a question that kind of blends product and the business side. So as if you were introducing someone brand new to LifeWave, how would you go about doing that? How would you incorporate Cellergize into that discussion? Where would you start them? When would you move them to another product? Any insights for us there?
Well, I mean, it's certainly an interesting question, and probably that would be a great question for some of the tremendous leaders that we have in the company. I know that leaders like Steve and Gina Merritt, who are, absolutely amazing, and I, don't want to pick on them because the leaders in this company are extraordinary, and it's a privilege to know each one of them. But Steve and Gina, for example, they developed their system and they've been extraordinarily successful, and they lead with X39. So that is a system that works because of all the benefits of X39. So I would say anyone that's building the business with LifeWave, absolutely start with X39 and then uh, introduce Cellergize some point after that. And maybe this is a little bit beyond the scope of this call. But very often, I would say really it's a matter of meeting the need of the person that you're speaking with. Are they interested mostly in pain relief? Are they having a problem sleeping? Are they struggling with energy? So I would say if there was a clear path to showing the benefit that it's going to give this individual, then by all means, introduce them to the Cellergize morning formula. In contrast, oh, and I might also add, since this would be relevant, is if you have someone that is struggling in pain, they will absolutely benefit from using X39 and the Cellergize morning formula. And the reason for this is that we know magnesium and potassium play a role in pain relief. Nitric oxide, some people who take a nitric oxide supplement, and in this case, again, we have potassium and we have citrulline. Just by elevating nitric oxide, we can bring down a person's level of pain. Antioxidants like NAC and Cyantox have anti-inflammatory response and will help to relieve pain. So this is to say, if someone is suffering in terrible pain, they could benefit from patches like X39 Eon and the Cellergize morning formula. Now, in contrast, let's say you start people on X39, and they say, well, I'm having a problem sleeping, or I don't want to get into any medical claims, so we'll just leave it at that. Then you'd say, okay, well, we have this evening formula and it contains nattokinase, magnesium, theanine. It's going to help your body relax, taurine, which is also good for the heart. And you'd want to move them on to that. So basically, what I'm saying is that the contribution that we want to make to our fellow human beings is to help fill their needs. So if they're having a problem and they have low energy, absolutely introduce them to the morning formula. If they're having a problem sleeping, absolutely introduce them to our patch products and the evening formula. But it's very much a matter of uh, being there to help solve the problem that they're having in their life. And, that's how you're going to be successful and meet the needs of those people that you're working with.
I love that. And that is one of the very powerful things about the products and the portfolio that you've developed for us is the ability to get very specific with different needs that we have with different body systems. And so thank you for giving us all these tools in the toolbox. So I know that this has